Hello everyone, this is Ariel Taib. In this video I'm going to show you the first game between Magnus Carlsen and Nepo. In this game, this is the first game of the World Chess Championship match in 2021. And in this game, Nepo had the white pieces and he started with e4. Carlsen played e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. This is the Royal Lopez. a6, bishop to a4, and knight to f6. There is a line of bishop takes c6, and after d takes c6, the pawn cannot be taken because of queen d4 forking the knight and the pawn. So after a6, Nepo played bishop to a4, knight f6, castling, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop to b3, and castling kingside. Here there is a very famous game that was played with c3 and then d5, the Marshall Gambit between Jose Raul Capablanca and Frank James Marshall. And Marshall had the black pieces. He played this d5 gambit. Although Capablanca was able to win this game, but they had a very tough battle. I mean, it was like a very tough task to defend against this gambit. So Nepo played h3 and Carlsen played knight a5, hunting the bishop before white can play c3 to hide it on c2. So of course the bishop cannot be saved, so Nepo played knight takes c5, knight takes b3, a takes b3, and bishop to b7, attacking the pawn on e4, and only after d3 can Carlsen play d5. Now it's very important not to play d5 straight away, because if you play d5 straight away, there is knight c6 attacking the queen. After queen d6, knight takes, queen takes, and simply taking on d5, attacking the queen with the rook. And black simply don't have any compensation for the sacrificed pawn. So he first played bishop b7, attacking the pawn on e4, but also covering the crucial c6 square. And after d3, he played d5. E takes d5, queen takes d5, threatening mate on g2. So queen to f3 defending, and bishop to d6. Now it's very important, if queen takes c5, which you might consider this move, black is not winning anything here. I know if like both of the queens are under attack, so if queen takes b7, there is queen takes e1 with check and black is winning, but white can simply take on e5. You might be saying like bishop takes f3 and white is forced to cripple his pawn structure, but no, he can simply take on e7. And if rook e8, rook takes c8, rook takes c8, threatening some issues on the first rank, because you will also be taking the bishop, then there is simply bishop e3. Now the bishop is under attack, the a6 pawn is under attack, and after bishop b7 there is a simply a normal game when white is up a pawn. So queen takes c5 is not working because the bishop on b7 is not defended. So black played bishop to d6, and here a very interesting move by Nepo, king to f1. Now the idea of king to f1 is that after, if bishop takes e5, queen is forced to take on d5, and after bishop takes, rook e8, rook takes c8, rook takes c8, there is no longer the threat of rook to e1 because white already played king f1, so now white can simply take the pawn on a6, and black is down 2 pawns, and there is no way for black to penetrate on the first rank and to win the bishop. So in the game, after king to f1, Carlsen played rook to b8, defending the bishop on b7, and now there is a threat, because if white plays casual moves such as knight c3, then now queen takes c5 is working, because first of all the queen is hanging. If rook takes c5, then there is simply bishop takes f3, and if you count the pieces here, black is up a piece for no reason eventually. But if white plays queen takes b7, well, you can see that the bishop was defended, so now black can play queen takes c1, and only then take white's queen, and now black is up a whole rook. And I think Carlsen can win this position. So Nepo didn't went for this. Instead, he straightforwardly traded the queens. Queen takes d5, knight takes d5, threatening knight b4, so bishop to d2, c5, knight to f3. And actually when I checked this position in the database, I looked at this position and I saw that this position was reached 2 times before this game. I mean, I couldn't find Carlsen's game against Nepo, the game that you're watching right now, but I was able to find two other games. Well, in two of those games, White played knight c3, but in this game, Nepo played knight f3, and it's kind of a new variation, but I think Carlsen was still prepared for that. Carlsen knows everything about the opening. So rook to d8, because the rook was kind of misplaced on b8, knight to c3, offering to trade knights, and knight to b4, declining the offer, and attacking the pawn on c2, so rook from e to c1. And it's very important to play rook from e to c1, because you want to keep your rook on the a file to attack the a6 pawn. Black played rook to c8, knight to e2, knight to c6, bishop to e3, and only after 97, no, the bishop can't move away from this diagonal, then only now I play bishop f4. And after bishop takes f3, g takes f3, bishop takes, knight takes. As you can see, it was very important to keep the rook on a1, because now the a6 pawn is under attack. So rook to c6, rook to e1, attacking the knight on e7. And I suggest you to pause the video and find out whether or not black can play knight to d5. So pause the video and try to find out. Alright, I hope you found it. The answer is absolutely not. Knight to d5 is a terrible blunder, because white can simply play knight takes d5, and the knight is untouchable because there is a back rank problem. So Carlsen played, excuse me, I'm a little bit confused with Nepo. Carlsen, I mean, Carlsen had the black pieces. So Carlsen played knight f5, c3, preventing the knight from going to the d4 square, knight h4, attacking the pawn on f3, rook e3, defending both of the pawns, and now king f8, knight to g2, offering trades, knight f5, counter-attacking the rook, rook e5, counter-attacking the knight, g6, defending the knight, and knight e1, defend both of the weaknesses. Knight to g7, rook e4, f5, rook to e3, knight to e6, planning to go to f4, so knight to g2, preventing, b4, and king to e2. It's very important not to take on b4, because after black simply take, you gave up the control over the d4 square, and you have a terrible weakness on d3, plus a double weak pawns on the b file, and the c file is open for black's rook. It's a very bad move to take on b4. So Nepo played king e2, rook to b8, king to d2, b takes on c3, and b takes on c3, not king takes, because if king takes, there is knight to d4 attacking the pawn on b3, and it's impossible to defend it, because if you play rook to a3, well, there is simply knight b5, a fork on the king and the rook. So after b takes c3, b takes c3, rook takes b3, king c2 attacking the rook, rook to b7, and now h4. The idea of h4, I believe, is first to prevent the black knight from getting to the g5 square, but also white want to move his knight, and you want to make sure that knight f4 does not come with a tempo on the pawn on h3. And also in some cases, black king might not be able to get to the king side via the g5 square. So king to f7, rook to e1, king to f6, knight to e3, threatening knight d5, so rook to d7 to prevent it, knight c4, threatening to fork on e5, so Carlsen is basically obliged to move one of his rooks, so he played rook e7, which is an invitation to a draw, and Nepo accepted. He played knight e5, attacking the rook, and as you can see, the black rook is forced to stay on the 6th rank, because the a6 pawn is under attack. You remember the rook on a1, which we talked about a few minutes ago? Like the rook on a1 is attacking the pawn on a6, so black's rook is forced to stay on both d6 and b6 square. So he played rook d6, knight c4, rook c6, knight e5, and I don't know if it was like a draw was agreed or it was drawn by threefold repetition. But anyway, this game ended in a draw in this position. That's all for today. This is the first video, and don't worry, I will upload videos about all the other games in this match, so stay tuned. And that's all for today. I hope you like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.